To check in. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Motherhood Channel with me, Quinne Huffman, and Tonya Meeks. Oh my goodness, the conversations are getting juicier by the day. And it's just incredible looking at life before and life after we give birth or we invite these little humans into our lives and the significance of their impact
Mhm.
and the learning that we go through. I look at my life before them and what I was able to do and what I thought I was able to do and the feedback we get. And then Tonya, oh my gosh, your story is just so incredible, actually. So talk into that. It's
Yeah, what I
before
was saying
Sparrow life was.
well, I was saying that I felt like there's been this learning curve of like, oh, I used to manifest so quickly and I did so much. And there's been, I think because I'm an Aries and I've always moved really fast, like I'm like, how fast can I do things? How much can I do? And I got a lot of positive feedback for basically being a workaholic. Like I worked, I saw 10 to 12 clients a day. I went to conferences and networking dinners and traveled. I did my show on the road. And I was saying I lived in Marina Del Rey. I had a private practice in Newport. I saw clients in Malibu. So I would drive from like Marina Del Rey to Newport, sometimes Laguna, then back to Malibu, like a lot of times in rush hour. And then I would sometimes get on a flight, on a red eye flight to travel somewhere. And I got such positive feedback for you're everywhere. You do so much. How do you do so much? And what I realized as I was talking about that I leased cars and I would like trade them in and I thought they were washing my miles. And once I had Sparrow, I realized that I had negative equity in leases. I didn't use any of my amenities at my apartment, beautiful place that I paid a lot of money for. I didn't even know where anything was there. And didn't even realize that, yeah, I didn't realize how extreme that was because I still, even until just recently, had thought, well, that was amazing. I was doing so much. And why now is everything went from the speed of lightning. We still do a lot in comparison, probably to a lot of families. I do a lot with Sparrow and trek around a lot,
Yeah, you
still
do.
more than the
Yeah,
average,
you
maybe
do.
the average mother, mama bear. Like, they'll be like, what else are we doing?
Yes.
We've been legging away on 4 hours and we're going to go to Laguna. I still will do a
Mm,
lot, but I think that there's this piece of like the quality of life and the speed
yeah.
didn't really mean that I was enjoying life or that I was healthy. But the
Yeah.
world gave me a lot of positive reinforcement for continuing to do a lot, for this extreme workaholic. Like that was
Isn't it
like an
fascinating?
addictive behavior. It really wasn't a healthy lifestyle. Like I didn't
No.
sleep. I was stressed out driving all the time. I remember I had like calluses on my finger I mean, I drove like the car dealership would
Wow.
be like, "How do you put this many miles on a car?" And I was like, "Look at all that I do." You know?
Yes, and that's the thing, and we talk about where does our feedback lie? What does
Mhm.
satisfaction feel like? And we lean into the input from the world, the feedback you get for doing things a certain way, and as we move into transitions and phases of especially as mothers, it's so incredible how it slows us down, and then we can suddenly see where we really are, and the health benefits is or the yeah our reference for health and wealth changes
Mhm.
when we have mothers. And so the whole theme of surrendering and letting go of all those pieces, the grief, and I mean, we've talked about this before, but I love the metaphor that you spoke into with the car, leasing the car and having all this negative equity that you built up and unaware, thinking
Literally,
it's
I
one
didn't
way,
know. Yeah,
right? And
literally was
so
clueless.
fascinating,
But I
fascinating,
thought that
because
I
then
was
you
getting a
sit with
deal
it.
because I was like, "Oh, I'm dealing with the general manager. I'm not even going through a sales associate. Look at me." like, not that I had an ego about it, but
Oh.
there was this idea that I could do everything so speedy and produce so much and make money and travel and finagle. Like, I would like make it all work. Like, how did I make all that work? But there was some sort of obsession with like how much I could fit in.
Mm. Was they you must have had some form of joy in it also.
I did
Like you
love,
said, it is part of who you are too,
yeah,
you
I
know,
still have
going
that
fast.
personality. So it's not like gone. Like, we don't
No.
go to the pool for an hour, we go for an extreme amount. Like, I still, ha- my little guy not wanting me, who's, you know, yeah.
Sparrow has an
Um,
opinion about
well, Sparrow
what
is
we're talking
very like
about.
private, and I'm very, that's been another thing. I'm
Oh, that's
very,
right.
you know, very
Well,
like
you're
share all the
transparent. You're
details. Yeah, I'm
transparent
very
about,
transparent.
yeah. And I think that's healthy. When I do my metamorphosis work, the big part of it is, what if everyone became more transparent in how they live and
Hmm.
who they are, so that we almost create this sense of what is the word, when we can read each other's minds almost,
Telepathy. Yeah, yeah.
because yeah, and I have a sense that there's a lot of conflict that will sort of float away when all of us live with more integrity and transparency, and not
Totally.
think we
Hmm.
have to hide certain things because there's all this judgment or this right or wrong way of doing things. I
No,
wonder
I
what the world
agree.
would look if we're not craving each other's feedback, but rather want to expand one another's realities or experiences. So we're rather wanting to create more for a more
Hmm.
satisfying experience than doing something in order to get feedback for what we're doing.
Hmm.
So
No,
it
I
is,
get
I
that.
don't know if it's kind of the same, but I think the intention or the attention to what we're paying attention to changes. And that's what I think motherhood brings us to. It slows us down because the
Hmm.
steps the little ones can take is a lot smaller than the
Literally.
ones
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
take. So literally we have to renegotiate everything about how we move and
Hmm.
live. And it can be so jarring when you go from an extreme, like me
Hmm.
too, super independent, and every day could be whatever it wanted to be to a certain degree.
Hmm.
Um, but I like to do a lot in a day too. I'm not as extreme as you.
I don't know that it's still healthy. Like, I'm like, does that really produce? It's just, I look at a couple different things. I grew up with a single mom that moved at the speed of light. Like, things were really chaotic and really intense. So that was like my baseline. That feels so familiar. So it's been,
The familiarity. Mm.
yeah. So there's a piece of that that just is so familiar. And I remember when I was pregnant, I was like so scared that I was going to have an introverted little being that never wanted to leave the house. That was like my biggest fear, not of all, but I was
Oh,
just like, oh, if I'm going to be, like introverts want to hunker in, they're not wanting to be out. And I was like, oh, that would be horrible if they never wanted to go explore or do anything. Like, if they really just wanted to stay inside all the time. I was like, what would we do? Like, what would I do? Because I would want to honor who they were. And I knew that about myself. So I wouldn't trump their need for my need, but I was scared of that like
yeah.
slowdown.
It's a
So
reality. I mean,
yeah,
I sit with two. I sit with an explorer and I sit with a homebody.
yeah.
And trying to meet everyone's personality where they're at, and acknowledging that we are, all sort of in this together, trying to create a life where we have harmony,
Hmm.
and yet the needs are so vastly different. It's a very challenging thing to do. So really honoring it in the way where, like with my one that's a homebody, I say, okay, with the days where we are all exhausted, we just follow her lead. We stay home, we make a cave, we do movie marathons, and she flourishes, she just blooms, and it's like, this is the best day ever, and we're all like, good. So next time we want to go explore,
You need to
she'll be
like,
much more willing to come with us. So there's this beautiful like play of energies
yeah,
that we have
yeah,
to accommodate all the time. But it's the awareness of it, you know, that's so
yeah.
key. Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
And just
Phew.
the part about transparency is that's what I loved about the performance work, is that I was telling a story that was transparent, that was the raw truth. And there was a reciprocal relationship with the show and with the audience for other people to be able to relate to that rawness. And so that's what my goal with that show and with the storytelling pieces was for people to tell the truth and for people to identify and have the courage to then tell their own story, the true
Mm,
story, the raw details, the icky part, all of it, not the
yeah.
polished,
To the
process
Instagram
piece.
filtered. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. All the filters. I
Yeah.
feel like no one really sees anybody's real life.
No. I mean, it's kind of strange, actually. It's
Hmm.
this robotic system that's come in. Um, that as more the more we want to promote transparency and just stepping into the realness and the rawness of life and the creative process it allows us to have and the connection to each other, there's the other extreme that's also real, where more and more there's the filtered existence, what I'm allowing other people to witness me in. So yeah, it's a fascinating time in this world. The extremes are
Hmm.
showing up. We are in the contrast. And I have to say, looking at our conversation about before and after,
Hmm.
it's it's that extreme of contrast that teaches us what we want. What
Hmm.
so then you get to experience and you go, okay, so now I know what I don't want, which allows me to know what I want. And
Hmm.
now I can create that. And our whole world, it feels as if we're in this incredible
Totally.
birthing
Hmm.
phase. Like we're past laboring. We're busy pushing out a whole new way of life. And this is hard. It can carry on for a while. But I think motherhood is the most exquisite metaphor for what our world
Hmm.
is going through, especially on a more global scale.
Hmm.
Yeah,
What do you feel like
amazing.
the biggest piece you learned from the before and after, before motherhood and now, or like the nugget, the gold?
The nugget for me before that, oh, that I've learned, is to, there's so much. So just boiling it down would be the trust. I mean, there's so many things coming up in my head, but it boils down to trusting myself
Hmm.
and this sense of my path and what I've gathered over the years from my parents and ancestors and way of life and Ryan's and then yeah, just as a
Trusting.
mother, gosh, there's so much coming at us and life changes so dramatically that it does boil down to trusting. Yeah. So
Hmm.
for me, it was leaning into finally hearing my voice when I
Hmm.
birthed, when I was pregnant, because I chose such specific ways. And then every stage, even the stage the kids are in right now, emotionally, socially, is super challenging.
Hmm.
And we hear the doubt entering, and then I feel this sense of uh, what is new and fresh and theirs and mine, and I have to trust this energy that's between them and me and our way in the world. So it
Hmm.
comes back to trust, trusting my authentic voice, trusting my inner guidance, and that it will be okay
Yeah,
because it's different. It's different from the systems that we are in.
that makes sense.
How about and you?
I was trying to think. I love to ask questions that are difficult for me to answer. I'm like, just keep
I
asking
know.
me questions. I
Mm,
feel like uh, the slow down, enjoying the moments, that we do go to the beach every day, that there are these rituals that are simplistic, uh, that in some ways I love, and in some ways I'm like, I do love the ocean and I do want to go to the ocean every day. So that's not, but there's some of the patterns of doing things in a pattern has been difficult for me, of the rigidity. Like my son is very, the structure.
Yeah. Mm.
So, but in some ways I figured out how to go to different beaches local and keep it simple, but still have something different without it
Mm.
being so complex. I don't need to move. I don't need to fly somewhere, even though I still have that desire. So enjoying nature in the simple things has been a learning thing, of being able to kind of land and
Yeah.
not to move as fast. I can't just whip out a new one woman show in 3 months. Like I used to, I could, and they were good. It was good material, but it does not work. My system doesn't work the same way. Like it's just not feasible. And what is interesting is like, I could live the same life I lived before if I didn't want to be present with Sparrow in the way that I'm present. So it is a
Yeah.
choice. Like I could live that revved up. I could. And I think that's the interesting piece, is that I don't want to. Um, I don't want to. I could have someone, with him all the time, and I could whip out a show. I could. So that's an interesting piece, to know that I'm like choosing it is different
Hmm.
too.
That's a key. That to me is the key piece, is
Hmm.
we don't get to govern life, but we get to choose how we experience what comes our way, and the choices that, how we choose to live it. So that is a fascinating piece. I love the piece around simplifying. I
Hmm.
think motherhood and this whole phase of life and where we're going is, claiming the simplicity. And the other side of what you said about not going to routine, but rather acknowledging ritual.
Hmm.
And I love that, because routine equally frustrates and makes me feel super boxed in. But the moment it
Yeah.
becomes a ritual, it simplifies and it makes it sacred and it makes it juicy and it changes it up in the moment, because everything gets acknowledged, all the
Yeah.
emotions and sensations. And so suddenly it makes us more present, I
Hmm.
feel. So I love looking at routine as ritual rather, and a rhythm. So it creates a rhythm that songs can be written to, and that
Hmm.
also ignites the senses and making us present. So I love that.
Hmm.
Thank you for putting it that way. Yeah, amazing. But it continues to be a journey. Every phase is like a before and after. Before
Hmm.
they turn this ages that mine is now, 9 and 12. Oh my God, don't jump ahead. 9 and 12. Uh, where we are entering the high emotional hormonal stages, and it's
Hmm.
girls. And I knew it for a while there. It was so sweet. I was like, ride the wave. It's so sweet, because the storm is coming, and the storm is
Here,
right
the storm
there.
is
I see
present.
it
Yeah.
out my window. Yep. Yep. It's wonderfully intense.
Is there something
Anyway,
that's helped during that storm till in the, is there something that
uh,
served you in this new?
uh, I think just all that we talk about, just
Yeah.
really staying present with it and not trying to keep it a certain way, but really riding it, really
Hmm.
flowing with the river of it all. And sometimes it is super still and super wonderfully slow. And then when it revs up into a rapid, the best thing you can do and feel is going with it, like really letting go. The message over and over right now is let go, let go, let go, and trust. So for me, those are the pieces that serves me during these transitional phases with them as a mom,
Hmm.
like really just watching and then seeing how I want to react,
Hmm.
and if that's going to help, and then finding my hi Sparrow. He's coming in. If you're watching YouTube, you'll see us. He's so beautiful. Look at
Okay.
those eyes.
Well,
So yeah,
I'm
if
gonna
you're on
pause for one
Spotify,
minute.
sorry, you're gonna miss this moment. But on YouTube channel, you'll be able to see our faces and our smiles and our eyes as we chit chat about this journey into motherhood that forever changes us. Oh my goodness. One extreme to another. But it's all joyful. Like underneath all of it, at the core, I think if we can hold on to that peace in the middle of the storm that keeps us going, it's the joy that comes with it. So, and Tanya's back.
I'm back.
I'll
Sorry.
stop
You were like, la 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 la. I was like, la 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 la. I have an entry
But
point.
I think this was wonderful just to kind of reflect back into where we've come from and where we are now. It's wonderful to be able to sit and go, wow, this is the piece I'm taking with me right now, and
Mm-hmm.
slowing down and settling into where you are and finding ritual and rhythm and the health and wealth that comes with your experience, not with money in the bank or feedback from others, but rather from that inner experience, being able to be with your son, me with my daughters, and all of you with whoever you get to sit with on a daily basis. Really finding the health and wealth in your experience rather than needing outward feedback. I think
And
that's
it
for
can,
me.
yeah, and it can look different for everybody. I think some people could think that they
Exactly.
want to be a mom that's super hands-on every millisecond, and then they may want to not be that way. Like I didn't know that that's what I was going to be like. I really would have
That's the
bet
choice.
millions of dollars. I would have bet. I didn't think I didn't want to be present, but I wouldn't have ever predicted like homeschool,
No,
like all of the things. I would have just been like, no way, no way. I was like,
same.
no way. Like I would have
I
bet,
could never have predicted. Yeah.
yeah.
Could never have predicted my way either. So no, I agree. Each to his own, as long as it's yours and it's
Hmm.
authentically, originally you doing
Yeah,
it
and you're
your way.
following your truth, and that could look a lot of different
However,
ways. Like, yeah,
be
yeah,
transparent so that we can see
yeah,
you for who you are. So
yeah.
that's brilliant. Again, if all of you want to join our conversation, comment and like and subscribe, and let us know if you want to jump into this conversation. And if there's topics or questions that we can drop into our conversation to see what information rises up and gets channeled through this
Hmm.
motherhood channel that we have opened. We appreciate all of you watching and listening, and we look forward to sharing our next conversation.
Thank you all. We look forward to hearing from you. We'd love to just have more of a conversation with people too. Okay. Big love.
Lots of love.
Okay. Bye.